Hello, my name is Joel Z. Williams. People in my neighborhood call me the poor people's advocate. Now, before we get started, the purposes of this video is to transmit information, and it should not be misconstrued as legal advice. What I want to talk to you about today is what I consider to be a landmark case that just occurred in Kansas City, Missouri, where a creditor was suing a person for a $1,000 credit card bill, and it turned out it wasn't the right person. They sued the wrong person, and ultimately the defendant in that case wound up with an award of $83 million. Now, what I want to explain to you first, I think you need to know a little bit of background on the law that allows this to happen. In 1977, Congress, the Senate and the House got together and realized that there were a lot of American families that were breaking up. Their marriages were failing, businesses were being shuttered, people were declaring bankruptcy because of the types of collection practices that creditors were using to go after people that owe them money. At this time, people would show up to your job, they would ask your boss why you were such a deadbeat, why you owed money, why you weren't paying, how much did you get paid, why couldn't you afford to pay them. They'd show up at people's churches and embarrass them in front of the congregation. They would use profanity and call them all kinds of names on the phone and just harass people to the point where Congress actually had to do something, step in. And when they did, they created what is known today as the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, FDCPA. Now, what that act does, among other things, it's a huge bill, and it has 16 major components. But what it does is it spells out the proper way that creditors should go after debtors who owe money. And you would think these would be common sense things, but they're amazingly not. For example, creditors are not supposed to call you before 8 o'clock in the morning. They're not supposed to call you after 9 o'clock in the evening. It's not supposed to call to your job more than once. They're not supposed to disclose to a third party, someone other than you or your wife that owns the credit card. They're not supposed to tell anyone else that you owe the debt. If you don't owe the debt and it's incorrect, they're not supposed to sue you if you're not the person that actually owes it. These are just a smattering. These aren't all the rules, but some of the more important ones. Here's a good one. They're not supposed to, I've seen this happen, where they're not supposed to misrepresent who they are. For example, they can't call and leave a message on your answering machine where they say, I'm just checking in with you or something. You called me back at this number. They have to identify themselves as a debt collector and state that the purpose of their call, their communication, is to collect the debt. They're not supposed to try to paint themselves as members of local authority. So, for example, they can't call you and tell you, we're going to issue a warrant for your arrest if you don't pay this debt by the close of business today. These are some of the things that the FDCPA spells out very clearly. And also what it spells out is that when a collector, especially a debt collector, when they sue the wrong person or do any of these infractions, the other party is entitled to a statutory award of damages of $1,000, right? Now, somebody worked it out where that is, in 1977 money, that $1,000 was a lot of money. Today, it would be almost $4,000, $3,800 and something. So that probably needs to be updated, but the fact remains that it statutorily provides for damages for someone who is a collector is going after them incorrectly. Now, let me talk about this case. Okay, so we learned about this case from Dan Margulies, who's a reporter with a national public radio affiliated channel in Kansas City. It's KCUR 89.3 FM, I believe. What the story is PRA, Portfolio Recovery Associate, the second largest debt buyer in the country, they're based in Norfolk, Virginia, sued a woman, a North Kansas City woman, for $1,000 credit card that they said she owed. Turns out they got the wrong person. Her name is Maria Guadalupe Mejia, and the person they were looking for was actually Mario Guadalupe Mejia. Ironically, he also lives in Kansas City, but they got the wrong person. Let me back up and tell you a little bit about this woman. She's 51 years old, doesn't speak English that well. They contact her. Actually, she's been working at a job in a dry cleaner for 15 years. And the owner of the dry cleaners decides he wants to retire, he wants to get out of the business. He sells the business. She's out of work. Her husband comes and presents her with these papers and says, hey, we just got sued on a credit card. What's this all about? She says, we don't have a credit card. We never had a credit card. We're barely keeping the lights on and paying the rent. Why would we have a credit card? So she knows automatically she doesn't have this debt. She doesn't owe this money. So she seeks help from legal aid in Kansas City. She goes there. They immediately contact PRA and try to get it dismissed and tell them, hey, you got the wrong person. This lawsuit is invalid. If she does owe the money, let us see the documents. Let's see the signature agreement, or listen to her assent on via phone, where she says, yeah, I agree to this credit card. Show us the documents. If you are alleging that she owes this money, let's see it. Let's see the proof, right? This goes on for 15 months. 15 months, PRA is constantly calling her, harassing her. Give us the money. Why don't you have the money? Why don't you pay up? All this stuff. Finally, a law firm in Kansas City, and I have to give hats off to this law firm. This is Slough, Connolly, Irwin, and Madden. And so it's Fred Slough. He's been practicing law since 1973. This guy is admitted to the Supreme Court. He can practice in front of the Supreme Court. He's a really good attorney. His co-counsel is a woman named Chiala, I think is her name. Gina Chiala, beautiful attorney. She is a former public defender. So these are people who really know this type of law. This is called consumer law. They take it up. They have 2 hearings. They file 4 motions. They are basically telling PRA, if you have the information that our client owes this money, we need to see it. Show us. And it gets to the point where it's so bad, PRA knows they don't have it. They know they can't produce it because her name they got the wrong person. So they never present, or they fail to produce discovery is exactly what happens. And the judge sets a date. This is Joel Fahrenstock, I believe is his name. He sets a date. He tells them, Joel P. Fahrenstock is his name. The judge says, listen, PRA, we're tired of this. You've been carrying this on for 15 months. Either, fish or cut bait. Show us the discovery. Give them, they do a motion to compel. Give us the discovery or your case, or I'm going to strike your pleadings. Basically, your case is over. They fail to produce, and Judge Fahrenstock is pissed. And he basically strikes their pleadings and says, this is over. We're moving now to the award phase. He is automatically found in favor of the defendant and is jumping ahead to the award phase. So, long story short, he awards the defendant here, Miss Mejia, gives her $250,000 in compensatory damages, right? I'm sorry, statutory damages right off the bat from the FDCPA. Gives her $250,000 for her court costs, attorney's fees, all that. And then he tacks on $82 million in punitive damages. Now, let me explain punitive damages really quickly. Think punishment. Punitive damages are a way that a court can punish a party for not doing something. And so what Judge Fahrenstock is doing here is he is punishing PRA for not adhering to the rules of procedure. So, long story short, she gets $83 million from a company. Now let's talk about PRA. I want you to know about this debt collector. Okay, so in 2014, this is Forbes magazine is the source for this. This debt buyer, all they do is buy debt that other people owe and then try to sue people on it. Last year, 2014 numbers, they had an overall revenue of $881 million, right? Out of that overall revenue, $100 and $76.5 million was net profit. And it's told to me, and this is a fairly reliable source, I don't know, but I just recently learned that the top 5 CEOs of the company, we're talking CEO, CFO, you know, the top executives of the company, their salary is $17 million a year, right? So we're not talking about a company, but when you look at this award, it's $83 million. That's more than just about half of what they made last year. So this is a massive blow to PRA. And let me, I don't want to say that. I'll probably get in trouble for that. But at any rate, let's chalk this one up for the little guy. This is a clear victory for the little guy. I think it'll be they'll appeal it certainly, and I think the award the punitive damages award will be reduced. There's a case, it's called BMW versus Gore. It happened in Alabama. Long story short, guy bought a BMW for $4,000. When he got it, it had been repainted. They misrepresented a material fact to him that it was a pre-used car, but it had never been repainted. He sued. The jury in that case awarded that man $4 million. They went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says no. That's not due process. You can't. The guy was wrong, but $4,000 that he had in it is not. The wrong does not correlate with the punitive damage award. So they reduced the amount. So there's no hard and fast rule of how much the damages should be, but it's generally accepted that it should be it shouldn't be more than a 10-to-1 ratio. So if in this case, if it was $250,000 compensatory or statutory award, then it shouldn't be probably 2.5 million, somewhere in that range. Should be more aligned with fairness. So it'll probably be appealed, and I think they have actually appealed already. But what's interesting in that is that PRA is not appealing the decision. They're appealing the award, the amount of the award. So in other words, they know that they got the wrong person. In our next video, I want to talk more about the FDCPA and how this can affect you in your real life, and how this woman's story is, although not typical in the amount of damages, it is very typical how debt buyers go after certain individuals. Low-income people and people who are new to this country are especially exploited by this type of these egregious practices by these debt collectors. Again, my name is Joel Z. Williams. People in my neighborhood call me the poor people's advocate. And I will see you on the next video, where we'll go into more detail about the FDCPA and what you can do to prevent creditors from coming after you illegally.